All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of the Catamount Chronicles right here. I'm your host, Brady Farkas. Excited for our guest here. Former UVM baseball player, finished out his career at Hofstra after the program was dismantled, and then ended up getting drafted by the Seattle Mariners, by my Seattle Mariners, in the 35th round. So Ethan Paquette is going to join us in just a moment or two. I want to remind you the podcast is always brought to you by appropriately enough for this episode, the Strike Zone Baseball Academy in Essex Junction. Dan and his team doing all they can to, number one, handle coronavirus guidelines, and number two, bring the best baseball out of Vermonters and people from northern New York as well. So it's just off Susie Wilson Road in Essex, using all the latest technology, hit tracks, Rapsodo stuff. You don't even know what it is, but you need it. I'm telling you, they do it there. Again, at the Strike Zone Academy in Essex Junction. Buffalo Wild Wings, just off Shelburne Road in South Burlington, is well owned by fellow UVM product Aaron Miller and his buddy Marty. They do a great job. I was in there the other day on Sunday. They are keeping everything safe and socially distanced for coronavirus. I got my food to go, but I was inside kind of checking out the scene. So perfect way to watch football, college football, pro football. You've got the NBA Finals as well. Shelburne Road, South Burlington, Route 7, Buffalo Wild Wings, and by Sobu Stretch Yoga and Meditation Studio. Again, just off Shelburne Road in South Burlington. Scott and Erica, the owners there, they're adding classes for the fall. Things are safe, socially distanced. They're a small studio, but enough people or enough room in there, 5-6 people, intimate setting, a chance to take your flexibility, fitness, and your overall health to the next level as well. So thank you to the sponsors. Now let's bring in former Catamount baseball player, former MLB draft pick, played at Hofstra as well, Ethan Paquette. Ethan, how are you?
Pretty good. How you doing, Brady?
Good. I appreciate you joining us. Also, Vermont native. You played your high school ball at St. Johnsbury Academy. And I got to ask you, so you were drafted 35th round by the Mariners. You got as high as low A ball in Everett. Was that the last stop for you?
It was. Yep. Everett, Washington.
So I apologize in advance. As you can see behind me, I got Mariners hats galore. I got like 8 more up there. I'm a diehard Mariners fan, have been for 30 years. Their player development history, you never had a shot. I'm sorry.
I hear you. Well, there's one thing you should add to your repertoire up there. The Everett Aqua Sox is, like, at the time at least, was the #1 minor league hat to, like, sought after by, like, all sports gurus and all of that. So might have to take a look. It's got a pretty neat symbol.
I got to look at the Everett Aqua Sox hat. I've got my Felix Hernandez Wisconsin Timber Rattlers bobblehead, and I do have a Kyle Seager Clinton Lumber Kings.
Nice. Yeah, Clinton, what a place.
So, you mentioned minor league hats. So the Lake Monsters are right up near the top of all minor league baseball sales as well. So what was your experience like in minor league baseball as a whole?
Listen, it's a very unique place. There's people from all over the world, as everyone knows. There's people from, 17, 18 years old to 35, 36, close to 40 years old. So it's a wide array of talent at all different levels. And then you have dedicated, hardcore coaches that they just live, breathe, and sleep baseball, and it's all they've known. So it's a pretty unique experience all in all. I loved it. I obviously would have loved to make it a little farther than I did, but overall, very fortunate to be a part and get a chance to experience it for a few years.
What was the biggest transition for you, or the hardest transition for you, between college ball and pro game?
I'd say, the grind day in and day out. You get up, every day is the same. It's Groundhog Day all over again. You go 0 for 4 last night in Idaho, and you're driving back to Washington or to Vancouver, to play a 3-game stint, somewhere else. And you got to have a short memory, and obviously you got to be ready for everything. In low A, single A baseball, you got top draft picks, and then you got guys that were signed in the late rounds. You got free agent signings. So, as far as the talent and where it was at, it was a whirlwind. So
I worked for a year. I wouldn't call it scouting, but I was doing video and player development for the Astros. So I worked for a year in minor league baseball. So I've been around minor league baseball. I've seen the bonus babies. I've seen the guy that the media all, throng to. What's it like for you as a low round draft pick versus some of the other more heralded prospects?
Yeah, I mean, it was. Listen, I think obviously, if you're drafted in the top rounds, they're going to give you more of an opportunity. Rightfully so. They invest a lot of money into you as a top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rounder. So rightfully so. They have a little bit more leeway. I do think though, as the season progresses, they play with the hot hand. I mean, to some degree, you're still going to have to get that draft pick, that top draft pick, his at bats or his innings on the mound. But overall, as the season progresses, they're rolling with the hot hand. So they want to win. Like I said, I mean, the coaches all they do is live and breathe baseball. They want to win. They want to continue to advance, just like minor league players. Those coaches want to move up the ranks just as much. They want to make their name with the system and the organization. So it's a pretty neat dynamic.
You did 3 years of minor league baseball. Why ultimately did you decide you were done?
Well, it wasn't by choice. Obviously, as a lot of minor leaguers, Tony Gwynn's brother actually gave me a call in the off season. I was, working in a facility. My off season training. I was literally taking reps off a tee, getting ready for the spring training. He called me up and he just said, "Hey, listen, Ethan, I know you work your ass off. I know, you got a lot into this, but we're going to have to let you go." So, at that point, I looked at it. I actually was very fortunate shortly thereafter. I was obviously trying to get re-signed by another affiliated team. Didn't happen, but very, very fortunate to get a chance to play overseas in France. I got to, experience playing all over Europe, with the French team, the Rouen Huskies, and then ultimately I played that winter down in Australia with the Adelaide Bite and the East Torrens Red Sox down in Australia. So that was awesome. It's some of the best experience that I've ever had in my entire life. I got to be honest.
Were there any players you came across at the minor leagues that have turned out to be studs, household names? Like, who was the best player you remember going against in affiliated ball?
Well, I mean, there was a number of them. I don't know. As far as like just a pure talent, like Taijuan Walker, he was with the Mariners. It was the number 1 draft pick our year.
He was with the Mariners this year. They got him back, and they traded him to Toronto.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, as far as I got to face Ty quite a bit, in inter squad games and just seeing him as he, obviously he was at a different level, and went through all the ranks, but. His arm was uncanny. I mean, he would be able to let a ball fly at 98 like it was no effort, So he was one, got a chance to play with Kyle Seager a bit with the Mariners as well. Yeah. Great guy, phenomenal person on and off the field, just knows the game of baseball. So, he's up there. But, it was neat. It was neat to see some guys that came down, like Manny Del Carmen came back for rehab stints and things like that, so – guys that have been doing it, Mike Saunders, before he was up in the bigs, he came back down. So, there was a few, for sure.
You mentioned going overseas, playing in France, playing in Europe. We often hear the experience from the other side. Like, what's it like for a player from Latin America to come to the U.S. or a player from Asia to come to the U.S.? What was it like for you as an American to go overseas, and especially in France where not everybody's speaking English?
Well, I was fortunate. Owen Ozanich, who I got a chance to play Legion ball, before going way back to high school days. St. Johnsbury in the Northeast Kingdom didn't have a Legion team. They did my senior year, but they didn't leading up. So when I wanted to play summer baseball, I had to travel to Chittenden County. So I played with the South Burlington Legion team for my whole high school career. I obviously got to know Owen, got to know like guys, Casey Harmon, the Maldonados, John Handy, all those guys. And, then Owen got a chance to play. He walked on as a recruited walk-on to UVM. Great guy. He ultimately gave me a call and said, "Hey, come play." Having him over there, he's a French citizen now. He wasn't. He had dual citizenship then. He speaks the language. Very, very easygoing person. I don't know if you know Owen real well, but it was really nice to have that. And then the actual players on the team were extremely welcoming. They love the game of baseball. For them, it's really a newer game. It's only been over in France for maybe 20 years, and like really at a somewhat competitive level for 15 years. So they love baseball. just to be around that again, it kind of brought me back to why I started playing baseball. Like just, you kind of get through the business of the minor leagues, and then I got a chance to kind of finish out my career just enjoying the game I play. I love to play. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Are you in New Jersey now? Is that where you're based now?
I am. Yep. So my wife, I met her at the University of Vermont. She played softball. Our programs got cut the same day. So
yeah.
She was recruited, but from Southern New Jersey. She ended up actually finishing up her college career at Drexel University, playing there when I went on to Hofstra and played at Hofstra. So yeah, I moved back there. She's local here. So yeah, I'm in Southern New Jersey.
So the guys that you mentioned that you played Legion ball with, some of those guys like John Handy, they play on the South Burlington Expos with me right now on the Green Mountain Baseball League. So what are the odds we can get you up here to moonlight a couple of Sundays next summer?
I don't know. Listen, I've had the request from a few people here locally to play some summer baseball. I just I got young kids now, and to be honest, I love being out on the golf course. I just mind away from things and nice and relaxed, and that's where I've wrapped my mind. So I think I've hung up my playing days. Now I'd love to coach at some point, with my kids, but yeah, I don't know. It would take a lot.
What's more frustrating, going 0 for 8 in a doubleheader, or being on the golf course any day?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I would have to say this 100%. 0 for 8 is a rough day. So even the worst days on the golf course, I don't think compared to the 0 and 8. I can tell you this right now. Only had a few of them in my career, but the 4 strikeout games, those are really tough to follow as well.
How can you fix my slice? Because I think my grip's all wrong. I hold it like a baseball bat because I don't know how to hold any barreled object any other way, but my slice is nasty. What's the tip?
You're asking the wrong guy. I love playing, and I'm all right. But hey, listen, by no stretch of the imagination, I'm out there leisure playing, and if I break 90, I'm good. So if I'm in the 80s, I'm good.
So let's work backwards. So we started with the pros. Now we go over to Hofstra, where you finished your college career. Funny story. One of my worst memories ever is playing at Hofstra. I was 17. It was Mickey Mantle's regional tournament or whatever. I threw 3 consecutive bunts away. 2 to first and 1 to third. 3 consecutive bunts I threw away from the pitcher's mound. So horrible memories at Hofstra. But tell me about your 1 year at Hofstra where you led the world in hitting, I feel like.
It was a kind of a unique situation. Obviously, devastated with what happened to UVM baseball, and I can't say that enough. I mean, for the kids growing up in Vermont, not to have a Division I program to play for anymore, and then obviously going through that at that time was terrible. I was very fortunate to play with the Vermont Mountaineers in our summer baseball league and the New England Collegiate Baseball League and the Ndcbl, and the coach of the Vermont Mountaineers was the assistant coach at Hofstra. And another kind of unique thing with when your program gets cut or terminated, you don't have to sit out a year when you transfer. Yep. So I was able to kind of they looked at it and said, hey, listen, this is a perfect situation. Good kid can come in here, play a year. It's not going to tie up too much. Give him an opportunity. Hopefully he can. At that time we had, I want to say, almost 20 incoming freshmen into that class. I had a very young team. Hopefully he can bring some, experience to these young kids, and as they develop, get them on their way. And that's what happened. It was, so it was very fortunate. The manager, our coach at Hofstra, Patrick Anderson, and then our assistant coach, John Russo. John's the head coach now, and John was our coach with the Vermont Mountaineers. Yeah. They were both great to play for, players, coaches, Anderson certainly helped me get drafted and give me an opportunity and call in some of those favors, because he's now back in pro ball. He's managing the Nationals in Single A, and he's been there for the last few years. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Who was your head coach with the Mountaineers at the time?
Russo. Yeah, so John Russo was. Yep. Yeah.
Because for a while, the head coach of the Mountaineers was this guy, Joe Brown, who was a Division III coach at Cortland, who I played against many, many times. So I was wondering if we were going to exchange Joe Brown stories on this, but those are for another day. So
no, yeah. No, not I didn't have Joe. No. I I have some Russo stories, but I don't know if we want to get into those either. But.
What was your experience like in the NACBL? Because it's a great league. Like I grew up around the Perfect Game Baseball League in Albany, the NYCBL. I almost got a job in the NECBL once. The Keene Swamp Bants wouldn't hire me because my batting practice wasn't on point. So, it never happened for me. What was your experience like in the NECBL?
Loved it. I mean, again, going back to like why you play. I love playing at UVM. I love playing for Coach Courier. I mean, he shared a wealth and gave me an opportunity coming from Vermont. But, going to those Mountaineer games, I'm sure if you've been, I mean, you get 2,500 people, 1,500 people that love the game of baseball, and just playing there in the city of Montpelier, in Vermont, in my home state, like, it was unbelievable. And then you get kids from all over the country, and it's competitive baseball. I mean, I would say it's probably number 2 outside the Cape, as far as talent goes. And we were always top of our division. So, like, the years I played and even the years prior and after, the Mountaineers have always given a run for the money for a championship year in and year out. So it was actually that year too. Kyle Massey, I don't know if you know Kyle, he's from Rutland. So played baseball. He was our captain at UVM, and Vermont kid. He was actually assistant coach on the Mountaineers. He played for the Mountaineers years prior. So it was kind of neat, all together. So
take me back to what it was like after the program got cut or after you knew the program was getting cut. What's the recruiting process like? Because I'm picturing you going 6 for 10 in a doubleheader and the other coach pulling you off to the side saying, hey, come play here next year. Like, how did that work?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was certainly unique. I really, again, I'm a very loyal guy, and Coach Courier gave me an opportunity to play. I felt devastated to even think about that. And then, kind of like halfway through the year, I was like, or, even more towards the end of the year, I was like, I got to really start dialing this in, because if I want to continue to play, which I did, I got to go somewhere else, and he kind of sat me down and said, hey, listen, I'll help you where you can. He always helped everyone on the team, try to fulfill their dream. He felt bad. I mean, he had been there for 20 plus years, had very successful program, had draft picks year in and year out. And for him to say, after all the dedication, it was tough for him to say, you know what, I'm still going to help these players out beyond. It was neat. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of kids, felt the pressure, like, oh, all right, I really want to maybe get transferred to Binghamton or Stony Brook or wherever else. I need to dial it in this game. It was a really weird dynamic, because you wanted to do well. You wanted to play well for your team, but you also wanted to catch an eye of someone else too. So
yeah, I remember I played Division III. So like I remember going through the recruiting process in high school. Like every start that I made, I was like, okay, who saw it? Who knows about it? There was a lot of pressure there. And then by the time you get to college and you're about to be a senior, you're like, okay, I'm the leader of the team. I'm the leader of the offense. My spot's secure. But then you got to like kind of there's pressure to perform again because you got to get re-recruited. Did you ever feel that way, or did the numbers from the first 3 years kind of speak for themselves, you thought?
So, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I felt the pressure of getting recruited. I personally, probably to my own demise a little bit early on in the season, I was just very frustrated with the administration. I was frustrated with how they handled it. I was frustrated with the way they approached and the lack of, at the time, respect I felt they gave the athletes all together. And I held that over them, a little bit, and it probably hurt me a little bit. So, towards, after say the first quarter of the season and beyond, I really wanted to cherish every time I stepped out, onto the field at UVM or just in general, because I love the guys I played with, loved who I was playing for, and I love the University of Vermont. I mean, I really love playing in Burlington. It was, it was kind of a dream when I got the opportunity coming from, the Northeast Kingdom out of nowhere, living in Westport with 1,200 kids, to play there. So, it was cool. So.
Take me back to the day that you found out the program was getting cut. Did it come out of nowhere? Did you see the writing on the wall? Had you heard rumblings? What was the day like?
The day was, it was definitely a little rough. I mean, we heard rumblings in the wintertime, and, again, catching Coach Courier off guard, I think he was very in tune with the athletic administration, more so than probably a lot of the other coaches there, because he had been there for so long. And every indication to him and to us was, hey, we're all right. We know what we're doing. We have a lot of funding from sponsors, that really helped the program year in and year out, So as far as that actual money thing, when it came down to it, we felt like in a good spot. So when the day came that morning, we got called in to the conference room in Patrick Gymnasium. We were in shock. I mean, I think everyone was very upset. When we got the news, it was very like, hey, listen, sorry, we're cutting your program. We're terminating it at the end of this season. Sorry, if you have any questions, we'll follow up. And then walked out. It was definitely a rough point. And I felt just as bad. Just like I said, I shared. My wife now was a softball player at UVM. Obviously very emotional for them as well, going through it, to kind of share that. It was a tough time. It was definitely a tough time, and I thought they could have handled it better, but it was a decision that was made. So,
could baseball succeed again at UVM? Like, from someone who wasn't here and someone who didn't see the program happen, I've only been here for the last 4 years. Is it something that you could bring back and sustain?
Absolutely. I mean, I think without a question of a doubt. And you look at like the history of Vermont baseball, there's been so many big names. There's been so many talented players, coaches that have come through. And, I know Skip Carter has made it an effort, forever to get it back. I know my dad has taken it personal, try to help where he can. And, I know Coach Currier had been involved. And I know there's a lot of people that want it back. I definitely think it can be sustained. I mean, you looked at it, it's sustained and thrived for a lot of years. You got guys like Jack Leggett that played, like those are big name players that are big name coaches that are now on a major programs in college baseball. And it all started at UVM. So without a question, I think there is still a talent pool. I mean, if year in and year out, if you looked at the rosters over, the 30 years prior to, things getting pulled, there was always a good core of Vermont baseball players that were leaders on the team, that were talented, whether they were the top players or not. I mean, my year, Matt Duffy was, from Mass.
Yep.
And, I'm still very close with Duff, and we talk a lot. He went on and played at Tennessee, and he still says nothing was like playing for UVM, and the camaraderie and where he was and how it started, and all of that. So, yeah, I definitely think it can and should go on. So
I'm curious about your perspective on this, because we've talked about the possibility that the Lake Monsters might go away. I'll ask you that about that in a minute here. And people say, well, why can't they just bring in a full season team? And the answer is because the weather's too bad most often. What was the weather like for you? Because, I mean, look, college baseball, March through late April here, probably not easy. What was the weather experience like for you?
Well, two things. So two funny stories. I obviously, when you're playing up there, and it's not just in Vermont, it's all a lot of the Northeast schools. I mean, you're playing indoor baseball until you basically go on your first spring trip, early March or end of February, whenever it is. So, you're indoors until then. And then, that first game back, it's always a chill. I mean, I remember the game leading up to my freshman year. We played down in TCU. We played against Jake Arrieta. We played against some big name players, and we came back, and it was cold in Texas. And we came back. There was about 10 inches of snow on the field. We had to play that weekend. I'm trying to think who it was against. I can't even remember who it was against at the time, but we had to shovel the entire field to practice and then get it ready and then play the game. And then the game came, and there was snow coming down. I was wearing a beanie out in right field, and there was snow coming down. You couldn't even see the batter at home plate. So there's definitely some challenges, but I think there's challenges in Minnesota. I think there's challenges in Michigan. I think there's challenges in Maine and New Hampshire. Other places that baseball is still living and thriving. So
no worse feeling for me in my college baseball career than shoveling ice off the tarp at 6 a.m. to play a Tuesday non-league game. Tell me, Coach Currier didn't do that kind of stuff to you.
Oh, listen, and I love Chico to death, but our assistant coach used to throw batting practice to us, Anthony DeChico, and he used to throw he'd gear up, he was throwing bullets, and that March frost and you get sawed off, even with metal bats. You felt the ringing through your fingers. So no, it was yeah.
As somebody who played affiliated pro ball, we're talking about a time now where the minor leagues is going to get shrunk. We don't know how it's going to get shrunk, but we're probably going to go from 160 to 120 teams. Lake Monsters are preliminarily on the list of teams to get cut. As someone who grew up playing baseball in this state, and maybe even coming to a Lake Monsters game was a huge deal for you from being far away, what do you think it would mean if the Lake Monsters were no longer around?
Yeah, again, it'd be very, very frustrating and it'd be sad. I mean, if you see the growth in what the state of Vermont is doing with how much has grown that I've seen over the last 10 years, just in other facets, in other areas, it would be a shame to see baseball gone away with that type of growth. More people are coming from out of state, and there's a big debate with that. But regardless of how you look at it, it's good for the state of Vermont, and to lose a staple like the Lake Monsters, and I went through it. I think it would be a poor decision. It would be frustrating again. And again, where are you going to see your closest game? You got to go to Boston if you're going to go watch a professional game. I know there's some other minor league teams out in New York and different things, but yeah, it would be frustrating for sure.
One more thing on UVM while I think about it. If they were going to bring the program back, do you want to see the program only come back if it can be nationally competitive? Like how much do they need to put into the program for you to be happy with the decision to bring it back?
I think that anytime you start a program over, it's going to take some time. We played them actually. It was University of Maryland when I was in college, and their whole program I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was a big uproar. Something happened. The whole team basically got flip-flopped. A whole new team and roster, coach, everything came in, brand new. And it took them 3, 4, 5 years to build it. And now Maryland's, quote unquote, a year in and year out contender, and it does take some time. So I think it'd take some time. I don't think you need to have, a ton up front. We got to kind of earn and work that. But I still think you're going to get sponsorship from a lot of local support. People want Vermont baseball there. I mean, there's no question about it. You talk to all the AAU programs, the Legion programs throughout the state of Vermont, the people that really love the game of baseball in the state of Vermont, which there's a ton of people that love, I think that'd be more than enough to get things rolling in the right direction.
I'll get you out of here on a couple of quick questions. I'm stunting for the sponsor on this one, but it's an appropriate question to ask. You can see it on the bottom that in part I'm sponsored by the Strike Zone Academy, which is a year-old baseball facility that just opened up in Essex, and it's got all the latest bells and whistles you could have. Like all the stuff that you use in the pro game, they've got like Rapsodo, hit tracks, all these fancy tech things to take the game to the next level. How important do you think facilities like that are now to help grow the sport in this state? Because I can only imagine, like, if you had things like that, how much better even you could have been.
Yeah, no, listen, it's great to see because again, with some of the things that have happened recently here with, I should say recently, it's been 10 years or so since they over 10 years since they've cut our program, but to see baseball still surviving and growing and giving kids an opportunity to get better and to get seen and go play Division I baseball, or an opportunity to play Division I baseball beyond high school or even Division III or Division II, it's huge. So I don't know much about the academy, but it's definitely great to see. I mean, I can always tell you this: Essex always year in and year out. I hate to say it, my good buddy Brad Courier. I wouldn't ever want to tell him to his face, but Essex is a powerhouse. So it's good to see him, still investing in baseball for sure.
When you come back to town next, where's the first place you want to eat?
Oh man, that is a very, very tough question.
I hear all kinds of answers to this, so I love this question.
Oh man, so listen, I love Al's, so I love eating at Al's. I love KKD. I love Campus Kitchen. I hate to say it, but I would have to say, I know it's not a glamour, but I think Campus Kitchen. We used to call it Campo. We'd go in there for a sandwich, a turkey bacon, sub or something like that. They'd load it up with turkey and bacon. You'd have lunch for days. We used to get it for our car rides or bus rides, to games, to local games. So I have to say Campo. I know it's not probably a popular answer, but yeah.
No, it's not. Hey, there are no wrong answers to that question, but that is the first one. That's the first answer for Campus Kitchen. So I like getting different ones. Al's is usually the one. Then mine is Ken's Pizza Pub. So that's what I always tell everybody. Ken's is always my spot.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Nice.
So, Ethan, man, hey, I appreciate you doing this. Played 3 years at UVM, then went on to Hofstra, drafted 35th round by my Mariners. They did their usual player development thing and screwed it up. So sorry to hear that. But Ethan, man, I appreciate the time. And look, next year, if you're in town, May through August, we got a Sunday with your name written on it at first base or right field.
I'll have to give John Handy a run for his money. So yeah, I got to keep him honest. So yeah, no problem. Hey, I just want to leave it. Thanks, Brady, and certainly let's work hard to try to get UVM baseball back as much as we can. So appreciate the time.